Okay, so let's get into Project Aura. So this kind of came out of some requests from clients who are reaching out to us, and we all are probably aware that using kind of the frontier models, the chat GPTs and Geminis, if we're being honest with one another, like we know most healthcare organizations are using it, some are restricting it, and a lot have no idea what their doctors and employees and business folks are doing with it. And that's where it starts to become very challenging. Now, this is not a security tool, but what it does is it provides you with a quote unquote, single point of truth in a secure environment. So one of the things that some of our customers were asking us for is like, I just don't feel comfortable taking our SOPs and our manuals and our compliance and regulatory, and contracts with our doctors and insurance and all of that stuff, putting it somewhere and potentially losing control of it, right? That's the challenge that we're seeing in so many healthcare orgs. People are uploading stuff to these frontier platforms, and they don't realize how much information they're exposing to these platforms, right? So the chat GPTs and Geminis and Claudes of the world. So we started on an initiative in late Q3 last year to build a platform that allows healthcare organizations, frankly, any type of organization, to address these problems that I just mentioned. So what I did is we created basically kind of like a GRC platform, but on top of it, we gave it the ability to allow end users to upload whatever they want to it. So in this case, we've uploaded numerous documents to it. One is the OSHA policies and procedures, HIPAA policies and procedures, a full incident response plan, 65 pages of cybersecurity related information. We also uploaded some information regarding not chain of custody, I misspoke, a phone chain. So if there is some type of event and you're interacting with Aura and you're like, hey, we had a OSHA event, who do I contact? Right? It provides all that information. Or we had a ransomware attack, who do I contact? Things like that. So that's all in there. The other beautiful thing about this, oh, and it also does HR. So the beautiful thing about this is it has the ability to chain documents together. So a lot of times you may need to pull pieces of information from an HR document, from an OSHA, or compliance. And, traditionally what would happen is you'd have to try and find those documents, read those documents, then go to other documents, pull that information in. And trying to get what you want out from documentation is often a huge challenge. So here's a very simple question that I asked, or I said, we had a surgical assistant cut with a scalpel that was used on a patient. What do I do? And it actually starts crunching all of the information that it obviously has in its model, and it starts spitting out a full response. One of the really cool things we do, and a lot of the frontier models are now doing this, is if I click on thought process here, it's actually going to tell you how it got to the answer and what documentation it used. So transparent AI is so critical right now. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about how we're doing transparent AI. But most of the frontier models, if it's pulling information from an external source, it's going to give you the link, things like that. But this is going to show you, hey, did I get all this information internally? Which documents did I use? Or did I need to go externally because I couldn't find, the corpus of information that I needed internal to my knowledge vault? So I'm going to show you that here in a little bit. So at the bottom here is some of the response, right? The very end of the response, it's showing you the sources that it used. But here's where it gets really interesting. So if you look towards the bottom, you'll see in orange occupational exposure and or intelligence. So one of the things we do is, in order to make sure the end user truly understands how the platform came up with this response, we provide the trust spectrum ledger. So if you remember just a second ago, that response at the bottom was kind of this yellowy, I don't say it's yellow, orange colored response. So whenever Aura returns a result, it's always going to tell you the trust spectrum, right? So if it was green, it is literally taking quote for quote, or word for word, I should say, not quote for quote, word for word, out of a document that you put in the knowledge vault. So if you ask it a specific HR question and it comes back with, hey, here's how you deal with an employee who is constantly late, okay, it's going to tell you in quotes and in green that, yes, this was a word for word response. The other really nice thing is you can actually click on the response, right? If you remember that little oval at the bottom of the screen, you can click on that response. It will actually open the document where it got that response from. So you can actually review it yourself. If you're like, maybe it got it wrong, maybe it didn't, I don't really remember this. There's no searching for files. There's nothing like that. It's going to bring you to that source of truth. And then just kind of moving down, yellow is a synthesized response. So it's taking information that you provided it and maybe providing a summary of that information. And it also is going to warn you, you know what, I think I may have hallucinated a little bit on this response. You probably need to check, the information that I'm giving. If it goes out and searches the web for a better response, maybe you asked it a question like, hey, how do I fix my HP LaserJet printer? And there's no document in the vault. Okay, it's going to probably go out to the web to find a response for you. And then it's going to flag that, hey, this came back from an external link. All right. So really, really cool stuff. We've shown this to a lot of people and they love the transparency that we're providing. We also have a lot of really interesting features in here. We give you the ability to generate SOPs from this. We have the ability for it to automatically create its own images, right? Infographics. And a lot of people are like, well, I can just go into ChatGPT or I can have Gemini do that. Sure, but once again, you are, risking disclosing, potentially confidential information. So having it all done here and having it always up to date is really, really critical. One of the things, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, is we have a redaction tool, right? So one of the challenges we see is people unfortunately load up information into these LLMs that contain EPHI, PHI, PII, confidential operational stuff, and they can obviously expose that inadvertently. So being able to generate these infographics. The next thing is the trust ledger. So for some smaller organizations, being totally transparent, they don't seem to care about this, but for our larger and enterprise customers and large health systems, this is amazing. So one of the things we do is any question that's asked, any document that's uploaded, any changes made, to any documentation is all cryptographically logged. So we're running SHA-256. So if an end user is like, nah, I did this because Aura told me to do this, we can go back, review that conversation. And because it's 256 encryption, we have no access to it, right? This is something that, can hold up in court. We can go back and look at the exact response, or we can look at changes in documentation, be like, okay, but look what someone did. They actually changed the verbiage in your HR policy. That's why you got the response you got. So this is something that is so critical in the AI world right now, is that we're creating these logs of everything that everyone is doing, so there's no questions about it from a legal and compliance perspective. Here's another chat I did. We had a ransomware attack. What do I do? So it can go through all of our documentation, just like it did for the OSHA, and start taking information from multiple documents. You may have an incident response plan, you have HIPAA documentation, things like that. It's going to bring all of that documentation together and provide guidance for you based on your policies and procedures and your operational documentation. And I think this is really where it starts to shine, is it's providing information back to you based on you, right? Not some generic information that it's finding on the web. And I'm going to say it again because it's so critical. It chains these responses together. So it's going to look at your HIPAA documentation, your compliance, your cyber, your incident response plan, things like that, and start building a response for you. And you can ask it questions, right? I did a little demo the other day for a healthcare org. And I was like, hey, tell me something that happens to you guys frequently. Like, oh, we always have laptops stolen. The doctors lose them. They're stolen out of cars, things like that. So, in part of our incident response plan that we had uploaded for this fictitious healthcare org, it had a process for that. So it talked about, isolating the device and remotely wiping it and validating whether hard drive encryption was enabled. And it always follows up with questions, which is kind of the cool thing right now in AI. Hey, would you like me to build an incident report for you? Would you like me to provide an executive level briefing to send to your CTO or CISO, things like that? It's got a lot of capabilities above and beyond just kicking out a response. This is another really nice thing. So if you go to upload a document into the vault, the process is really interesting. The second you select the document you want to upload, locally in your browser, it will rip through the entire document, and using the NIST standard, it will find anything that it believes to be something confidential. For instance, a date of birth, a social, even an email address, a person's name and address, maybe things like that aren't supposed to be exposed. So it's going to give you the ability to flag that document and the content within it. And it does have an auto redaction tool built right in. So if it finds a social security number or a claim number or something like that, it's going to flag it. And then if you accept the redaction, it will literally block out that data before it uploads it into Aura. So this is all being done locally on the machine, not once it hits the database. So this is just an example of it. This is an escalation path document that I just had AI to create, to be totally transparent with you. But when I went to upload it, it started flagging things like, do you want this cell phone number here? Well, yeah, it's a escalation path. I do want that cell phone. Do I want this email address? Yes. But it could be a document that you don't want to upload, information to. So all these yellow bars indicate, the pieces of data that the local engine has detected as possible confidential information. And then the end user gets to decide whether they want to leave it or they want to redact it. All right, so that is Aura AI. All right, well, just want to say thank you for those that attended. Appreciate you, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you so much, Steve. It's always an honor
Okay.
presenting with you.
Thank you very much, everyone.